You're listening to the Take Your Shot podcast, a podcast for wedding photographers and videographers looking to grow and scale their business. I'm your host, Halle, and my goal is for you to walk away feeling empowered and inspired as you continue to build a business that you're passionate about and that serves both you and your clients well. So whether you're operating as a side hustle or you're looking for tips and tricks on how to improve and scale your business, you, my friend, are in the right place. You don't have to figure it all out on your own, and I'm so glad you're here. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Take Your Shot podcast. I am so glad that you're here. So today I want to talk about booking season and how to prepare for that. So as we're in Q4 and the holidays are coming up, it's really important to prepare for booking season. So you might be wondering, okay, what is booking season? When is that? What does that look like? And so if you're new or you have never gone through a booking season before, basically most couples in the United States get engaged between the months of November and February. So from Thanksgiving to Valentine's Day is a very popular time for people to get engaged. About 40% of them do. And so that is like a huge time where people are starting to reach out, booking wedding vendors, especially photographers. And so as a wedding photographer, it's so important to be prepared in your business for this season. So I really want to do a deep dive into just the focus areas in which you should be preparing for now, so that then when booking season comes, which is less than a couple months away, you're ready to go and people will be ready to book with you. So before diving into booking season and preparing for that, I just want to say, if you are someone who is overwhelmed and are interested in doing a one-on-one coaching session, that's not something I plan on offering for a really long time, but I do actually have some spots available for one-on-one coaching. And so as you're listening to this episode, and if you're thinking, man, I'd love to deep dive into some of this with someone, I'd love to be your girl. So let me know if you're interested. I've got it linked in the show notes. You can apply. I'm only taking on a select few of people, but I did want to just plug that in here just quickly in case that is something you might be interested in. So let's dive in. So first of all, you want to do, before you even focus on anything related to your website and branding, it's so important to do just like an overall health check on your business. So as we're heading Q4 and prepping for tax season and all of that, it's really good to just look at, okay, like what were your goals for this year financially? Where were you exceeding in that? Where were you maybe falling short? And just kind of evaluate the different parts of your business that bring in revenue. So whether that's sessions, engagement sessions, families, or if it's weddings specifically, look at the number of sessions you did and weddings you did and what you were averaging for each of those. So it's really important to just kind of get an idea of that, so that then you can kind of then plan for, okay, what do I want that to look like next year? How many sessions do I want to take on? How did that feel? Like, did I have an insane fall season where I was so booked that I didn't get to enjoy time with friends and family? Raise your hand if that's you, because I may or may not be raising my hand as well. And this is something I do every single year, is I just look at not only what was I making, but how did that time feel? And that's a great point to be like kind of looking at in terms of, am I charging the right amount? I could do a whole episode on charging the right amount. I think so often people don't value their work and they're undercharging, and you end up overworked and burnt out, and that's not sustainable. So I'm a huge advocate for charging what you're worth. And I think that can be a hard saying. Everyone says charge what you're worth. What does that really mean? I think it means, not underselling yourself. And what you're worth is like a whole thing to unpack. So that is for a different episode, but just doing an overall just health check on, okay, how did it feel financially in our business? And then next, to take it a step deeper, is to really do an audit on your clients and your branding, and how are you feeling about the people that are booking you? So if you're looking at your weddings for this year that you shot and you're like, man, I loved every single one of them, I'm really bringing in the clients and the types of weddings that I love to book. If everything just feels so aligned, then you're really probably doing a great spot, and your branding is probably great. If you're thinking, man, like I really want to do more destination weddings, and maybe you're not super excited about the types of venues that people are booking, or maybe it's the type of couple that you're booking. If you're kind of feeling a little discouraged in that, or you feel like you just haven't quite gotten into a good rhythm with working with your kind of people, this would be a great place to just evaluate, okay, who do I want to be working with? What do those people look like? How can I reach those people? And do like a deep dive into your business and see, like, am I actually working with my ideal client? Like, am I actually putting out content that resonates with them, because that will be a huge thing for you and your business in terms of who's going to book you down the road. And so that is a whole thing. It is a process that takes a lot of intentionality. It takes a lot of intention of just thinking, okay, what are your intentions for your business? What are your intentions for your brand? Who do you want to be working with? What does that look like? What's sustainable for you? What should you be charging? Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes in there. And one thing we do every single year is we go through a full brand audit. And you don't have to do a full rebrand every single year. I think some people feel like, okay, I've got to get new logos, new website, I got to hire a designer, and they just kind of start there. But before even doing any of that, I think it's so important to just get aligned with, okay, what are your actual goals, and really deep dive and reflect on who do you hope to work with, and what does that look like, and set that intentionally for your business before going out and looking at, okay, who do I need to hire to do my website, and how do I, what do I need to do in terms of, getting a new rebrand and all of that. Like, I think before jumping into that, it's really important to just set your intentions of like, okay, why do I need to do that? And what do I want that to look like? And if you're actually in that place right now and you're thinking you want to do any sort of like branding refresh or anything like that, I actually have a resource for you in the show notes. I've got a free brand audit workbook. It is actually pretty extensive. It goes through a number of different sections of your business where you can just do audits and actually like do some reflecting and refreshing in your business. So if you're interested, you can use the link below to download that, and it's super extensive. It's like a full-on workbook. It's something that I think is a very good resource, especially if you just like want to get a good basis and just kind of reflect on where you're at and where you want to go. It's a huge help. So definitely take a look at that. So we talked a little bit about business management and marketing and branding. Next is just like overall, like you should be as you plan for booking season, is just really get an idea of like, what is your overall strategy for marketing? Like making sure that you have a plan on how do I want to reach these people? How do I want to book them? Because if you're sitting in booking season and you don't have a marketing plan, you don't plan on posting on social media, you don't have any blogs scheduled or anything like that, it's going to be really hard to reach those audiences. And so going in and making sure you have a business plan planned out for your marketing is so important. So the types of messaging should be in line with your branding and the intentions that you set and the goals that you set, things like that. So once you've kind of started getting people in the door and you've got your marketing plan, what are you going to do with them when they actually reach out? That is a huge question. So another place you want to really audit in your business and really prepare for is just your workflow and productivity. So when it comes to like when clients reach out, so like your client management, what do you want their communication with them to look like? What do you want them to feel? How do you want to connect with them? So are you going to direct them to a page on your website where they can sign up for a time to meet with you? Are you going to do these consults in person or over video call? Is it just a phone call, or do you do everything over email? There's so many ways in which you can communicate and work with your client, and what does that look like for you? Everyone does it differently. There's no right or wrong. I will say there's things that worked for us better than others, and that's like a whole separate episode in and of itself. But when it comes to connecting with your clients, really think through like, what is that process, and how do you want to build that out? So if you need to be refreshing your branding, and that's part of something that you're doing, and you need to like up your pricing or really adjust like how you structure your pricing, that's all things that you need to really focus on and work on in the back end of your business before you get all these floods of inquiries coming through, because you don't want to have people start reaching out and you're not prepared or have a full-on plan for next year and what you want that to look like. So that's a huge part of the strategy piece in just the back end of just your workflows and your processes, and how do you want that communication to go like. And so I think a big thing is just making sure that your pricing makes sense, making sure that it's in line with the number of weddings that you want to take and sessions you want to take, and also just structured in a way that really guides them through the process, so that then when they reach out, they're not lost and wondering, man, like which one's right for me, and all of that. So make sure that you have a really solid process for couples, so when they reach out, that feels really good for them. And on top of that, it's now a great time to just look at your offerings. Like, what are you offering for your couples in terms of like sessions or travel or things like that? Like, do you offer prints? Do you offer, any sort of bonuses, or is there anything that you haven't done that you've been thinking you want to add. So maybe you want to add film photography to your list of offerings. Maybe you have a film camera that you've been playing around with and you're wondering if you want to add that on. Maybe that would be a good time to experiment with film and maybe try testing that out in the winter. And if that's something you want to add on in the wedding season, that could be a really good offering. One thing Luke and I did was we recently added VHS recording to our wedding films. So we've been handing a camcorder to basically the bridal party during the day and just say, hey, like here's a camcorder. We've got several tapes. So if you fill it up, that's great. We can give you another one. And we just want you guys to have fun with it. Like treat it like a home video. Like you're just kind of documenting the day through your lens, whether you want to do like interviews or just hang out or just, tell stories, like whatever you want that to look like. Like you guys have free creative reign. And it's been really fun to see what people come up with and do that. So that's been something that we offered as a new thing this year. Some people might be adding on, like I really want to restructure my films and I really want to add on, dances, or I want to do teasers, or I want to do travel. One thing we did last year was for engagement sessions, we added a destination engagement session option, and we had multiple people book us for that because we had it as an offering. So people think deeper about, like what I do actually want to travel, or maybe they're investing in their experience, or maybe they have a place that that's really meaningful to them. That's not where they're living now. Like it's a really cool thing to just think through, like what are things you want to offer in your packages that really aligns with your business and your goals, and like you can guide them through that process. So that is another thing. And then I'd say just the last thing to really go through and look over in your business is just overall, like really look at like, okay, how is it serving you and your lifestyle? Do you feel balanced in your life? I know we talked a little bit about this at the beginning of the episode of just like charging enough, but really making sure that when you're booking, you have time set aside away from yourself. Like I'm looking at next year and I actually have some time blocked off where I told Luke, like, even if people inquire, I'm not interested in booking these times because it's so easy to have someone reach out. You're in multiple conversations with people, and you don't have control over who books and who doesn't at the end of the day, at least not fully. You can really guide them and help tip that in one direction or the other. But at the end of the day, like people might be booking and you might realize, man, I'm talking to multiple people. And if they all book, that's going to be really busy. And that's exactly what actually happened to us this year. And so we're just being a lot more intentional of like actually taking time off and looking at, what do I want my lifestyle to look like? How do I want to manage my friendship and my social life and family and all of that in conjunction with wedding season? Because it can just be pretty overwhelming. And you want to make sure you also have time in between weddings. So maybe this means you don't do double headers, or maybe you don't do 2 weekends in a row. Start thinking through like what boundaries do you want to have before going into booking season. And I want to kind of end with this too. So if you're feeling overwhelmed with like bookings, like you're not booking where you want to be, just know that like if you're completely booked out and we haven't even hit booking season, chances are you're probably not charging enough. It's really important that you charge an appropriate amount, and that could be its own episode in and of itself as well. Wow, all these episode ideas from this one episode. But just know that like booking seasons is upon us, and there's so much to look forward to. And so you don't have to really worry too much about like, I'm not booked. Like there's still people who are still not engaged yet that are going to be getting married next year. Not everyone has a year-long engagement. There's plenty of people who have 6-month engagement and around that. And so just know that you still have plenty of time to book, but you don't want to sit on this. So if these are areas of your business that you need to evaluate and you're feeling that, make sure you go through and prepare now so that then you don't feel like you're trying to play catch up in the midst of booking season. So again, I just want to remind you, if you guys are interested in any one-on-one coaching, I do have a couple spots available. So click the link in the show notes to apply for that. And if you have not yet grabbed my free brand audit workbook, that you can also find in the show notes as well. And it's a great place to start, especially with all of this as you're thinking intentionally about your business and kind of where you want to go. So thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Take Your Shot podcast. If you found this podcast helpful or insightful, we would absolutely be honored if you could take a moment to leave us a review on whichever platform you're listening on. If you have any friends who you think would benefit from this podcast, please share it with them. And lastly, we absolutely love connecting with you all on social media. You can find us using the links below in the show notes. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.